How we doing, everybody? And happy Friday. This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, we have a lot to cover. We have Wisconsin volleyball. Haven't talked about Wisconsin volleyball yet. We're going to jump into that a little bit. We're also going to be looking at the Badgers. They have a game this Saturday against Illinois. We're going to give the preview here. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the Packers and Broncos game coming up on Sunday. A little bit of a college football schedule for the weekend, and then looking at the NFL weekend slate. So with that, right away, we're going to jump into Badgers volleyball because they have been impressive this month. Haven't lost a set in a month. That is crazy. If you really think about it, they haven't lost a set since September 17th, over 30 days ago. That has been since Florida. They went down 0-2 against Florida, ended up coming back to win that 3-2, and then winning their next 8 matches 3-0, and all against Big Ten opponents. A lot of people say, well, okay, it's what you expect. They're the top team in the country. They're supposed to run through teams. Yeah, but you're supposed to run through teams, but that's like the top team in college basketball or college football never giving up a point. That's what we're seeing right now. They're not losing a single set in any of these matches. That is the crazy part about it right now. Yeah, I don't know looking at it, I don't know what the record is off right now, but I know that opponents, according to that, opponents have only scored more than 20 points of the 25 twice in the 8-game stretch. In the second set against Rutgers last week, Wisconsin allowed only 4 points to their 25. That is just nuts. They are 17-0 on the season, sitting at number 1 in the country. They haven't had to play many ranked teams over the past month and a half, but that is going to change here coming up. They're going to play Nebraska, and they're number 2 Nebraska. So it's going to be a huge matchup against Nebraska coming up, but impressive news coming out of the Wisconsin volleyball team right now. Don't usually talk about it, but I just saw that out there on the out on Twitter. I saw it, so I had to the X. So I had to shout it out there, and just it's a heck of a run they're on right now. But with that, we're going to jump over into the Badgers. And the Badgers have Illinois coming up on Saturday. That game will be at 2:30 on FS1. Right now, ESPN, if you look at the predictor, they have them at a 66% chance to win that game against Illinois. I think it's modest, 66. I think it's maybe could be a little bit less. Badgers have some uncertainty coming in this one, and that is quarterback Braden Locke is going to be starting his first game at Madison. Hasn't started a game fully since high school. We talked about it a little bit. You're going to have some shaky moments, I think, in his first start. I don't think he's going to come out guns a-blazing. I don't think it's going to be it could turn into what we saw out of Graham Mertz the first time he played Illinois, and that was Graham Mertz showed off the gun, showed off what he's got. That was an impressive start by Graham Mertz. Maybe we see an impressive start by Braden Locke here and have a little bit of promise moving forward, but I think to expect it to go fantastic would be overselling it. I think there's going to be some shaky moments in this one. It's just a matter of if they can outdo those shaky moments. And we're going to get to that when we cover our keys to this game. But looking at the team stats for these two teams, looking at Wisconsin, total yards on the season average 400. They're sitting at about 212 passing on the season and yards rushing 187. Looking on the flip side of that, for Illinois, they're sitting about 244 through the air, and they're sitting about 127 on the ground there. So they're going to try and test you through the air. Wisconsin's secondary needs to play in this one. We didn't have to really utilize the secondary, didn't have to do much against Iowa, besides when the run broke outside. They didn't really have to scheme for it. Now you're going to have to be able to scheme for this pass game. Looking at the leading rusher for Illinois on the season, Love the third. He's sitting at 51 carries, 257 yards, and 1 touchdown. They're not going to try and beat you on the ground. They're not a ground team. They're more through the air. You look at quarterback Altmaier for them. He's sitting at 138 for 218, 1,571 yards on the season, 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions go along with it. He's going to make mistakes, and that's where the Badgers have to really take advantage of it. This secondary's got to play good for Wisconsin, but also the front seven needs to put pressure on Altmaier and keep it there all game long to try and force some mistakes out of him. You look at yards allowed on the season, Illinois is going to give up yards on the ground, and that's where the Badgers could take advantage in this ball game. Looking at their yards per game, 164 they've allowed on the ground there, 234 through the air. Looking on the flip side for Wisconsin, good against the run, not so good against the pass, 212 on average on the year versus their 123 on the ground. That front seven for Wisconsin's been playing well. Secondary has been getting better as the season's been going on. We'd love to see a progression in this game against Illinois. You look at Illinois in their past 5 games. They just came off a game against Maryland, won that one 27-24. Maryland's a decent ball club. They're a decent football team. Looking at Tua's brother there, he's been playing great at Maryland at the quarterback spot, and they have a decent team up there. So that win, nothing to shake your head at. It's a pretty good win for Illinois there. But looking at the games before that, lost 20-7 to Nebraska, lost to Purdue 44-19. FAU, they took care of FAU 23-17, but lost to Penn State early on 30-13. Their schedule has been relatively easy on the outside of Penn State. Not so difficult of opponents there, but they have been struggling against them. You look at that game against Purdue and what Purdue was able to do against them, 44-19, that game was finished. Impressive win by Purdue there against Illinois in Purdue's standards, but Wisconsin's going to have to play a little bit better in this one. Illinois is a sneaky team. If you don't respect them, they're going to take advantage of you, especially through the air in this ball game. Wisconsin's secondary, like I said, it's going to be a key in this one for Wisconsin's secondary to really pick it up. On the flip side of it, for Wisconsin, I don't think you have to rely on the pass game as much in this one. I think you want to take, you listen to what Locke had to say, and Locke came out talking about how he wants to put the weight on his shoulders, and he wants to shoulder all this weight. I don't think you have to put all this weight on Braden Locke. I think you can avoid that by getting the run game going for Wisconsin, getting Braylon Allen involved, getting Jackson Aker into the ball game there, getting him involved in this one. And I think that's going to be a huge key to the Badgers' success in this one. It's going to be on the ground in this game. Looking at like I said, we're going to look at the keys here to this one. And like I've been talking, it's going to come down to Badgers establishing the run game. Braylon Allen had an injury against Iowa. Went in the medical tent. He's not going to be 100% going into this game against Illinois. So expect to see a little bit more out of Jonathan Aker. But, what I have seen, or not Jonathan, I've been getting his name wrong this whole time, Jackson Aker. What we have seen out of Jackson Aker, there we go, got him right. What we have seen out of Jackson Aker in these previous games, I trust Jackson Aker can get the yardage that the Badgers are looking for. He wasn't really relied on in this last game, but before that, I thought he's been a decent number 2 behind Braylon Allen with the absence of Ches Malusi. Getting him in there, taking some pressure off of Braylon Allen, using Braylon Allen spotty in this game if he is injured. If he's ready to go, don't hold him out. Don't put him on a pitch count. But if he's not 100%, if he's sitting down there and he tells you I'm at 55%, don't utilize him as much. Try to get Jackson Aker involved in this one. And if he can't pick up the slack in this run game, then maybe try and use Braylon Allen. But like I said, injury, you want to avoid that moving forward. So if it seems like Aker can handle most of the load, this is a game where you'd love to see it. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to put all the weight on freshman quarterback Braden Locke. As much as I would love to see him shine in the spotlight, to shine in his first start, I think this is a game where you want to ease him into it. Make a couple throws when he has to. Don't try to do anything crazy. Just the simple stuff. You look at this Badger team of the past, and you used to see the end around. You used to see these receivers get involved in that. We have some athletic wide receivers, some guys who can get out in space, make a move, and make something happen. I think that's where the Badgers need to utilize in this upcoming game here, is to try and maybe get back to some of that kind of stuff. Some of the trickery. Try to avoid having to throw the ball consistently on 3rd and 7 or on a 1st and 10. Try to run some of those end routes, maybe some play action, something simple, something that can get the offense kickstarted and take some of that weight off of Braden Locke in this one. And like I was saying, getting some pressure on Luke Altmaier. He's what Illinois is fueled on. He's accounted for 1,800 of the total offense for Illinois in this season. Has ability to throw the ball downfield, escape the pocket, use his legs to be able to get around. So you're going to have to keep him in the pocket, put the pressure on him, and try and work to your advantage, helping the secondary out, maybe getting some ill-advised throws out there, giving them a chance to maybe pick six, something along those lines. Just a big interception in this game that could set the tone for the defense and for the offense heading forward in this one. They have to do it. They have to keep pressure on him and keep him in the pocket. That's going to be a big key to the Badgers in this one. Looking at also another key, we talked about it yesterday, you cannot look ahead to Ohio State. I know Wisconsin can see it. Everybody can see it. They know it's on the schedule. They saw it before the season even started. Ohio State coming up this week, next week. It's going to be next week, but they saw when it was going to be. They knew who they were playing before it. It's in the back of their head. They have to avoid thinking about Ohio State coming up, because if you get into a mode where you're thinking Ohio State is coming up next week, this game will get ugly. It's going to be a trap game. It's going to get out of hand for Wisconsin fast, and they won't be able to backtrack and make anything right out of it. Wisconsin needs to avoid looking ahead and focus on Illinois. Right now, where this season's heading, you're not a college football playoff team. You're not a big bowl game team. You're a team that's trying to play to get into a bowl game at this point. Maybe win the Big Ten West, maybe put some points on the board in the Big Ten championship game. But right now, you have to play to get into a bowl game at least. And that's where this Illinois game is huge. Ohio State, if you somehow miraculously get Ohio State come to town and you take care of Ohio State somehow, some way, fantastic. But from the grand scheme of things, from the outside looking in, that game we already know the outcome. So you have to look at Illinois, and if you're going to look ahead, you look at the week after Ohio State. You basically look as Ohio State as this is basically we're going to chalk it up as an L, we're going to move on. You don't have that mindset going into it, but that's where we are looking at. You cannot be looking ahead to Ohio State in this one. I'm thinking in this ball game here, Wisconsin is going to have to control the line of scrimmage. They're going to have to control Altmaier in this one. I don't think Wisconsin's going to run away with it. They should. In the grand scheme of things, they should. They should run away with this game. You look at what Purdue did against this Illinois team. You look at what Nebraska did against this Illinois team. Wisconsin should be able to run away with this game. At Illinois, I think it's going to be a close one. I don't think they're going to pull away. Having Braden Locke starting his first college football game, I think it's going to be a tight one for Wisconsin. I think the defense will hold true, and I could really see this becoming a run game for Wisconsin, trying to, like I said, I think Fickell is smart enough to take the pressure off of Braden Locke and, tell Phil Longo, hey, we need to try and get the run game established and run it until it's a broken record. Just keep on going. Maybe call Paul Chryst and ask him how he did it, because that's where the Badgers are trending right now, is that we need to get that run game established in this one. Mix in the pass when you have to, but try and utilize what you have in the backfield to start this one. Braden Locke, not a very mobile quarterback, so Illinois is going to be keying in on that. So quick, short, methodical throws will be key for the Badgers in this ballgame here. I think that is going to carry them over the top. But like I said, in this one, if I was a betting man, I would take Wisconsin, but I'm taking it in a close one. You look at the line right now, they have Wisconsin at minus 2.5 right now, and the over-under is sitting at 41. So I'm taking Wisconsin in a tight one. I'm gonna tell you that. Wisconsin in a tight ball game. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game. Looks like, according to the weather, it's going to be 61 and cloudy at kickoff. So decent weather for the ball game. If you're heading down to Illinois, should be a good one. Hopefully the Badgers pull off a win before Ohio State comes out next week here. But like I said, on FS1, 2:30. If you're not going to the game, you can check it out on FS1. With that, we're going to jump over into the Packers, because the Packers have a game coming up on Sunday against the Broncos, coming off a bye week. 325 start for that one. Right now, ESPN's got him with a 56% chance to win this one. And, the way that the Broncos are falling, you would expect that to be a little bit bigger, but the Packers are flailing at the same time. And coming off the bye week, huge news for the Packers as of the injury report as of yesterday. Jair Alexander was limited at practice. He had an injury to his back again, limited at practice on Thursday. Zane Anderson limited. Elton Jenkins was limited again. Aaron Jones limited. Darnell Savage, Stokes, Quay Walker, and Devontae Wyatt all limited at practice. The only one who did not practice was Devondre Campbell, which is huge news for the Packers. They are trending in the right direction on the injury front, especially getting that defense healthy, and also Aaron Jones coming back to the Packers here. A huge boost on that offense there in the backfield. We've talked about it. He is, I think, a huge key to the Packers moving forward here. Looking at the Broncos injury report, looking at some of their guys, Justin Simmons was limited. DJ Jones, defensive tackle, he was a full go. Kareem Jackson, safety, was a full go. Greg Duchik did not practice. Lloyd Cushenberry was a full practice, and Baron Browning was a full practice. So the Broncos are relatively healthy heading into this one. Great to see, though, the Packers have the full arsenal of weapons back out there on the football field for this one. Looking at some of the stats leading up into this one, for the Packers, they are sitting at about 298 yards per game right now, 216 yards through the air, and on the ground, they're averaging about 81. 81 yards. Aaron Jones coming back. That is a sigh of relief for Packer fans. Hopefully, that 81 starts to trend upward a little bit. Looking at the flip side for the Broncos, they're averaging about 323 a game right now, 217 yards through the air and 106 yards rushing. They're leaning heavily on the pass game too. Looking at the two teams here, they're going to try and throw the ball, and getting Stokes, Alexander, and Savage back, that's going to be huge adds to the Packers as they get into this game here, trying to stop Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos offense from throwing the ball around. Make him put the ball on the ground, put pressure on Russell Wilson, and try to make him make mistakes in this one. Looking at Wilson's stats on the season so far, 122 for 185, 13,305 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions on the season so far. Russell Wilson has been throwing a couple more interceptions than usual in this season, and I think the Packers can take advantage of that. Looking at the yards allowed by the two teams here, the Packers sitting at 358 right now. Pass yards, 215. Rush yards, 143. Looking at the Broncos, 458 yards allowed. Through the air, they're averaging about 285, and on the ground, they're averaging about 172. The Packers will have some holes in that secondary, and I think they can take advantage of them, especially having a guy like Aaron Jones back. When I say that, I mean you can utilize, and they really need to stick this into Jordan Love's head, is when a play is broken and Christian Watson's got coverage down the field, Romeo Doubs is covered up, Reed's covered up, Musgraves, and he's got nothing. Aaron Jones can be utilized for a dump off. And you look at how many games now where Jordan Love is completely, it's like the first level isn't there. He's looking beyond them. He's trying to get the deep ball. He's trying to go to Watson. He's trying to go to Doubs deep. When underneath, right in front of him, wide open. You look at that deep pass he had to Watson that got picked off. Romeo Doubs was coming across the middle wide open. I think they need to instill in Jordan Love to utilize the short game when he can, the short pass, because these dump offs to Aaron Jones could break off for huge yardage. The dump offs to Romeo Doubs, Reed's got some speed out there. Even Watson coming across the middle. They all have the speed to be able to make something happen out of a short 5-10 yard pass. They can make that into a 20, 30, whatever it is on the backside of that. So I think that's where the Packers really need to take advantage of that, because if you get the short game going, if you get those short dump-off passes, they're going to respect it. The coverage is going to become different on you, and then it's going to open up that pass deep down the field there. Especially if you can get the run game going along with that pass game, the short pass game, I think that's going to really open up the deep ball for him, and then you can take that shot. If you're just taking shots after shots, it's never going to work out. Defenses are going to read in on that. Even the Broncos, who are struggling, will read in on that. The Packers in this one need to utilize Jones and that short passing game, maybe a Musgrave, maybe a Romeo Dobbs across the middle, something to just get the Packers going on 1st and 10, on 2nd and 10. Get some yardage before you're sitting at 3rd and 10, and now you have to gain 10 yards to keep the drive alive. It sucks to see so many 3-and-outs by this Packers team when they aren't utilizing the run game or the short pass game. They're trying to go for it all in one. Looking at the last 5 for these teams here, Packers, as we all know, beat the Bears, beat the Saints, have lost to the Falcons, Detroit, and the Raiders as of late. Looking at the Broncos, played a close game against Kansas City Chiefs. In that one, I chalked it up to the Kansas City Chiefs got off the bus and they said, we're going to win this game. We didn't plan for it. We didn't make a game plan for this. We're just going to get off the bus here, roll into the stadium and win. And that's what they did. So the Chiefs, last game for the Broncos against the Chiefs, 19-8. They played the Jets, lost the Jets, beat the Bears, but then lost to the Dolphins and the Commanders. And, well, we all remember that Dolphins game. They lost handily. This Broncos team, susceptible to giving up big yardage and allowing a lot of offense. So the Packers really need to take advantage of this one and go full bore. I think the Packers, if they play the game that we know this offense can, this game should be in hand by the 3rd quarter. I really do think it could be. If the Packers play like they have as of late, I think it's going to be a struggle, and I don't know if they'll have the answers for the Broncos. They might try to stifle them. They might, you never know what to expect out of a desperate Broncos team, especially led by Sean Payton, what you're going to see on this game here. But looking at the Packers, some of the keys to the Packers game here, looking at like I said, they're going to have to establish the run. You look at the run game. The Broncos have been a struggling defense, struggling through the air, struggling on the ground. You get the run game going in this one, it's going to take the pressure off of Jordan Love. He's going to have that ability to throw the ball when he needs to, but also have that option where the run game's still there. We can go back to it. It's always going to be in that back pocket. We're always going to have the ability to go both ways in this one. I think they need to establish the run and stick to it this whole game here. Don't go away from it. If it's working, don't try to all of a sudden let's try and air it out. If you want to air it out once in a while, okay. But don't go overboard on it. Don't try to do too much. Just stick to the run when it's working and utilize that in your benefit. That's what I think is going to be huge for the Packers in this one. Also, looking at some mismatches in this one, the Packers defensive line going up against this offensive line for the Broncos. I think they can take advantage of this one here, getting into the backfield, putting some pressure on Russell Wilson, and utilizing the linebackers in that sense too. Even a guy like Quay Walker coming up through the middle there. Get some different packages, some different looks for Russell Wilson. Try to catch him off guard and make this happen here. Also looking at the secondary for the Broncos in this one. Patrick Surtain, great cornerback. But looking at the Packers, you look at how many shifty, good wide receivers they have between Reed and Dobbs and Christian Watson. Those guys are all great targets, and I think with the lack of great talent they have in the cornerback room, I think the Packers can really take advantage of that in this ball game here. Also, like we said, talking about Aaron Jones' effect in this ball game. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm telling you, it's going to be huge. Having him back for this ball game, we haven't seen him in weeks. We've been thinking about him. Trust me, watching these Packer games, we've been thinking what would be different if Aaron Jones is here. And I think he's going to help Jordan Love stay calmer and really give him a great running back in the backfield there for him that can make something happen on first down and not have to rely on throwing the ball around 75% of the time here. Controlling the line of scrimmage. Like I just talked about the defense, I think the defense, the front four was the Packers in this one, can get through there. Looking at the flip side of it, finally getting some of the offensive linemen back, getting healthy. Elton Jenkins is supposed to be back. Controlling that, giving Jordan Love time, opening up holes for Aaron Jones. That's going to be huge for the Packers in this ball game here. Going into this one, I'm really leaning towards, it's a Wisconsin podcast, so I'm going to tell you if I think the Packers are going to win. I always hope the Packers are going to win, but I'm brutally honest if I think they're going to lose. The Packers will win this ball game against Broncos. There shouldn't be a way the Broncos can win this. But at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if the Packers somehow lost this game. I expect it to be right away, Packers to be a little bit rusty. I don't think they're going to come out guns a-blazing. I think they're going to pick it up, and I think it'll be in hand by the third quarter. I really do think the Packers will take control of this ball game. I think Aaron Jones being back is going to help out a lot. I think the defense being finally healthy with Stokes and Quay Walker, Savage, if Alexander's ready to rock and roll, and Devontae Wyatt. I think this defense is finally getting healthy and ready to rock, and I think they're going to be able to take it to Russell Wilson in this game. They won't have an answer for it. I think the Packers have this game in hand by the third quarter. But with that, we're going to look over at the college football schedule for this upcoming weekend. Looking at Saturday, you're starting out at 11 o'clock, and I hate big matchups like this. On at 11, you're just rolling out of bed. You barely have time to watch Lee Corso put that mascot head on, and you already are watching a ranked matchup. Penn State, Ohio State on at 11 o'clock in the morning. That is going to be a huge matchup there. Ohio State's owned the rivalry as of late. Penn State's put a pretty good team together this year. They have a great running back in Allen right now, and great quarterback play. McCord has been playing great for Ohio State. This is going to be a huge matchup. If I was a bet man, I would take Ohio State simply because Penn State still has that rivalry losses in their head. I think it's like 6. They've lost 6 in a row or something like that. I'm pretty sure. I think Ohio State wins this ball game here. As much as I don't like Ohio State, I think they win this ball game. Looking at the next 11 o'clock game, Oklahoma and UCF, I don't even think that's a ball game. I think Oklahoma takes care of them pretty handily. Looking at the Air Force jumped into the rankings at 22, coming up against Navy. That's going to be a interesting game. I think Air Force wins that one. First Pac-12 game of the day is going to be Oregon and Washington State. Washington State coming off of a loss, going up against Oregon. Number 9 Oregon also coming up off against a loss there. Bo Nix played pretty well against Washington there. That was a pretty good game against Washington. Washington just outed them just a little bit. Got that one last hoorah in that one, and I think Oregon will take care of Washington State. Alabama is going to get tested here against number 17 Tennessee. Alabama has not been able to find, Milroe from Alabama quarterback. He really drives me nuts because one pass dead on the money makes him look like he's an All-American. And the next throw is 15 miles to the left and hits a fan in the dome. I mean, that's what it's like watching Milroe throw a football. I think Alabama wins this game. I think Nick Saban finds a way to beat Tennessee in this one, especially in Tuscaloosa for this game. Looking at the next 2:30 game, it's going to be Missouri, South Carolina. I think Missouri wins that ball game. Tulane and North Texas. Tulane, I think, is going to come out on top. Iowa and Minnesota. I think that's going to be an interesting game. I think Minnesota wins this game. I hate Minnesota. I really do. I hate Iowa. I think Iowa, they just came off of a game against Wisconsin where we all remember it. It was ugly. And I think Minnesota somehow, some way, goes down to Iowa City and pulls off the win here. I got Minnesota in that one. Next game on the docket, Texas and Houston. Texas is going to get the win against Houston there. Looking at Virginia and North Carolina, May is going to be too much for Virginia in this one. I got North Carolina in that one. Looking down the schedule, 6 o'clock, we have, and by the way, North Carolina, Virginia, CW Network. I didn't even know they had, I forgot that there was such a thing as a CW Network, but apparently it's still around and it's hosting college football games now. Looking at the next game on the docket, though, Ole Miss and Auburn. Number 13, Ole Miss against Auburn. I think this is going to be a good game. I think Auburn could pull off the upset. I'm going to take Auburn. They played a good game against Georgia a couple weeks ago. I'm going to take Auburn to pull off the upset against Ole Miss. Prime time. 6:30, NBC, Michigan and Michigan State, 7-0 Michigan going to East Lansing to take on 2-4 Michigan State. I think I'm going to go with Michigan in this ball game here. I think they're going to move to 8-0. I think J.J. McCarthy is a great quarterback, and I think he is going to take care of the Spartans in this one. A huge game coming up at 6:30 on ABC, Florida State and Duke. That's going to be a good game. I did not expect what we're seeing out of Duke this season. I think Florida State wins this game. I think it's a tight one, though. I think Duke's going to hang around with Florida State. I think Travis is just going to be too much for him. And the run game for the Seminoles with Benson. He's at 463 yards on the season, 6 touchdowns. Nothing to shake your head at there. I think Florida State is just too much for Duke in this one. An interesting one, LSU and Army. I think LSU wins this game, but I think Army plays close in the first quarter. I think it's going to be a close game there in the first quarter. Another interesting one, 7 o'clock on Fox, USC and Utah. USC coming off a loss there, and I tell you, I loved it. I loved every second of it. Seeing Caleb Williams on the sideline just lost, yelling at people, pointing fingers everywhere. It was awesome to watch, and I'm telling you, chalk it up to 2 losses. I got Utah. I'm going to take Utah against USC in this one. USC's defense is terrible. They are not there. Notre Dame exposed them for everything that they are. I think Utah wins this ball game here. The 9:30 game on FS1, Washington and Arizona State. I got Washington winning that one. And then UCLA and Stanford at 9:30 also. I got UCLA over Stanford in that ball game. So a big weekend for college football. The big game, Penn State and Ohio State, and then Duke and Florida State. I think those are going to be 2 great games to watch. Also, when Minnesota takes care of Iowa, I think that's going to be a great game. Looking over at the NFL slate for Sunday, we have the Raiders and Bears. That should be an interesting matchup. I would hope the Raiders can take care of the Bears. Browns and Colts, I got the Browns winning that one there. I think the Browns defense is great. I love against the 49ers, I thought they played a heck of a game there. 49ers did lose some guys throughout the game there, but I think the Browns defense is pretty darn good, and I think the Browns will take care of business against the Colts. Bills and Patriots, I got Josh Allen and the Bills against Patriots. Patriots cannot find an answer for anything right now, and I got the Bills in that game. Commanders and Giants, Commanders will take care of the Giants here. Sam Howell has been playing pretty good for Washington this year. Looking at the next game on the docket there, the Buccaneers and the Falcons. I like what the Falcons have done this season, but I like what Baker's been doing with Buccaneers. Played a pretty good game against Detroit. I think Detroit is underrated. I don't think anybody is talking about Detroit as much as they should be. I got the Buccaneers in this one. Lions and Ravens, like I just was talking about, the Lions have been underrated all season long. I think the Lions take care of the Ravens in this game. Looking at the 3:05 game, Steelers and Rams, I am going to take the Rams in this ball game. I think Stafford's going to find a way to take care of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Looking at the next 3:05 game, is going to be the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks will take care of the Cardinals. And then we got Packers and Broncos. I already covered them at 3:25 on CBS. The Chargers and the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will take care of the Chargers. I think, like I was talking about, they weren't really prepared for the Broncos. They just expected to win. I think they're going to come into this one with a different kind of attitude. They got Hardman back now. That was a huge acquisition for them, getting him back. So I think the Chiefs will take care of that. The most interesting game of the weekend will be the Dolphins and the Eagles. A potential Super Bowl matchup there between the Dolphins and Eagles. I like the Dolphins in this one. I love what Mike McDaniels is doing. I love what Tua has been doing this season there, and having guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I think they have a dynamic offense, and I think the Dolphins take care of the Eagles here, hand them their second loss. And then the Monday night game, 49ers and Vikings. Vikings still not there. 49ers coming off a loss. I have the 49ers winning that ball game there. So, but like I said, I think the best game of the weekend will be Sunday night Dolphins Eagles. That's going to be a huge matchup for the NFL slate. But with that, that is about all I have for sports news for today for you. Like I said, Badgers, Illinois, coming up on Saturday on FS1 at 2:30. It's going to be a huge game for Wisconsin there against Illinois. Try to get things back on track, and the first start for Braden Locke. So hopefully everything goes right with Braden Locke. Packers, Broncos, we expect to win. We hope for a win. Looks like they're going to be healthy leading into it. It should be a handily win by the Packers against the Broncos there. But with that, This has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next week. Deuces.